Hi, I'm Reese, the owner of The Gold Zebra, the personal, professional, and business development hub for Gen Y women. And today I'm here with the lovely Sandra Garcia, owner of Conscious PR, and we are going to be talking all about rebranding your company as well as hiring your potential clients. So thank you so much for having me, or me having you, I guess.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dive in, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of your journey into starting your company?
Yeah, I graduated from UBC in English Literature and Film Studies. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. I had the idea of going into some sort of communications for film. That was the sort of cloud. And I happened to been passed an internship opportunity in the summer that I graduated for a PR firm that did a lot of the film industry parties in town, and cool. I thought that was a great fit to kind of merge my communication skills with my love for film. So I interned there for about a year and a half, and then left in the middle of 2007. I gained a year and a half of some great PR and event planning experience. I just felt that I had enough of the events world, and planning and executing those kinds of parties, and just really loved the aspect of media relations, where it honed in on my love for writing and storytelling. So I didn't really want to hand my resume off to other firms after that. Just something held me back, and I thought that other companies might have a similar experience than the one I had. So I just worked part-time, and then my best friend, who's an artist, was putting on his first art exhibit and asked me to help invite people and get people to opening night. That was the end of 2007, and so I used the skills that I gained at the PR firm and helped him with that, and that sort of got me. That was sort of the entrepreneurial spark where I thought, hey, I can start freelancing for companies, and then my first my current business was born in early 2008. So that's how it all started.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about Middle Child Marketing.
So Middle Child Marketing was the first brand. That was the first name of my company that I started out with, and it was really just done on a whim. I was kind of like, okay, I've got to register a company name, so what am I going to pick? And what was funny is when I was in school, I thought Middle Child Films would be such a cool name for a company, because I'm the middle child in my family. I have an older sister and a younger brother, so I am the middle child, and of course I didn't end up going down that path. And so later on, when I was thinking about a marketing company and what name should I choose, nobody was using Middle Child Marketing, so that was it. There wasn't really much thought into it, but it actually turned out to be a cool conversation starter, because I would go to networking events and be like, yeah, my company uses Middle Child Marketing, and be like, oh, that sounds cool, and some people wouldn't get it. They're just like, why middle child? And so I'd have to explain that part of it. So yeah,
it's definitely memorable. And it's good. I like the alliteration of it. It's catchy. One thing that we had talked about in the past is you had said that there was some kind of brand confusion at times, though, with the name, which was one of the things that led you to rebranding. So people thought that you only focused on child marketing or children's programs.
Yeah, so I'd get emails, because I guess, if you type child marketing into Google at that time, my site would be one of the ones that came up, and so I get emails saying, do you do marketing for children? And I couldn't even wrap my head around that. Obviously marketing for companies sounds straightforward, but marketing for children, I didn't know what that was, and I thought, are your children actors or something like that? I didn't know, or some people would ask if I did something around education of children. I'd have to explain exactly what my service was. Clearly they didn't really go onto my site and saw what I was about, but it's so interesting to see what people gather just from a Google search and assume from a name.
So So tell us a little bit about how you decided to transition then to conscious PR.
Mm-hmm.
What made you make the switch, and what was kind of your thought process for how you did, and putting together a new name, and just how you came up with everything?
Yeah, it was really serendipitous, but I'm so glad that it all happened. In 2009, actually, I was in my second year of business, and I remember sitting in a conference and being a little bit bored, and I was just thinking of these ideas, and how great would it be to have a PR company that stood for awesome values and who wanted to do feel-good campaigns and tell good stories about unfortunate people or situations or things like that. And I wrote down this whole mission statement on my iPhone, and then I deleted it shortly after that because then I think I was really feeling stuff from here, and then I went back into my head, which is where I do a lot of my thinking and decision making, and I went, no, you're aspiring to be an entertainment publicist or a fashion publicist, and no, this doesn't match with what the image that you want to put out there, so no, and I scrapped it. And what's funny is, as fate rolls around, in 2011 I was sort of on this I would call it an incline of self-development. So I started rereading a lot of the books I left on my shelf, like Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, and a lot of books. And I started going to a lot of speaking events, or events, put on by great, spiritual and conscious people. And I ended up working with an intuitive healer and a coach who wanted to put on this healing art kind of event, and through her, that sort of awoke that passion and that other sense of social change that I think I've always had. And she introduced me to other people. She referred me to a sustainability advisor who needed my services, and I just started meeting all these other great networking groups and businesses. And that just opened my eyes to this whole other world of conscious business that people are now searching for and putting out there. And then I remember it was shortly after I had seen Gabrielle Bernstein speak in the fall of 2011 when I think I downloaded the name or the brand Conscious PR. I got it in my head and I couldn't get it out after that. In November 2011, I remember I was driving home and was thinking, what am I going to do with this idea? Because I'd already been running my business for almost 4 years as middle child marketing. And then I thought of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is this huge parent company, and they've got all these other product lines and brands underneath them, but Coca-Cola is the overarching company. So I thought, okay, well, middle child marketing can be the parent company, and I'll just launch Conscious PR as a brand, just to test out the market, see what would happen. And so I did. I created the brand, the website, the logo, all that. Launched it in 2012, and then got the response from clients who wanted to work with me because of what I stood for. So that was the whole how the whole transformation developed.
It's very cool. So PR is kind of like a subset of marketing, right, in general.
Yeah.
But I know, for conscious PR, you focus really on social or environmentally conscious enterprises. So how important to you was it to establish your niche of the type of client suite that you want to have? Did you find that kind of attracted more business, or do you have to turn away some business, or?
No, it was more so attracting the right types of clients, just seeing who would come to me. Because, like I said, I didn't rebrand right away. I launched Conscious PR first, just to test out the market. And what ended up happening was, the clients that I had as middle child marketing, which I still have now. So some of the big event clients that I work with, they were totally fine with me with me rebranding. Yeah. And on the other side, there were all these other companies and individuals identifying themselves as wanting to work with a publicist. And then I came along and, I'm a writer, like I said, so I made sure that all of the values that I stood for were clearly laid out on my site. And so anybody visiting my site now can self-filter themselves or self-qualify themselves before they contact me. And so I was just really fortunate to have met a lot of the early clients of Conscious PR, and they were almost, it's just the fit was so great. They were like, I need PR, and I'm like, well, I've got this brand that I'm putting out there, and just the fit was there. So
very cool. Okay, so speaking of hiring clients, what are some of the qualities that you look for in a great client or company to work with?
So, like I said, the face of my company is all online, and I list my top 5 values on there. So I would say connection, community, and service are big ones. It needs to be a company or person that really believes in their product or service, and that it is in service to people, or is maybe even in service to the environment. So that's big, and that sense of connection, that we're connected and we are building community, like that's pretty huge. So I'd say the value alignment is number 1. Number 2 is their story, and so everybody has a story, right? So but they're coming to me because they feel that their story isn't being heard in some form, and maybe I can help them with that. So if they've got a great story and it hasn't been told in the media or on social media, or not in the way that they wanted it to, and they need help with that, that's super key. And I need to feel that my service can help them with that. So that would be the second thing. And then lastly, budget. So people come to me and they want me to work pro bono for them, or give a significant discount. And they could be great projects, and in my heart I feel like I really want to help them, but ultimately I'm running a business, and and I need to feel that my service is being upheld. And so sometimes I tell people, just these are my rates. Come to me when you have the resources for it, and maybe at that time it'll be the right time for their story to get out there. So
that's such a key mindset to have. Like, I know I've spoken to a lot of women, and even myself in particular, like, money is a dirty topic to talk about. And so how have you always sort of had that mindset, or did you have a point where you were doing pro bono work when you first started your business, like Real Child Marketing, and now you're at a point where you feel comfortable saying, like, this is my rates, this is my value? Like, I'm sorry, the project is a great initiative, but unfortunately, we just don't align in these, the money thing.
Yeah, early on, I was much more willing to do that, to give discounts. One of the greatest volunteer projects that I had the pleasure of working on was with Women in Film and Television Vancouver. I was a member because of my connection to the film festival that I still run, the nonprofit film festival, but they were in need of a publicist for their, I think it was their 20th anniversary of Women in Film, and they were celebrating their Spotlight Awards Gala, which they put on every year. And that was such a great project to work on, because it utilized my skills. It allowed me to connect with media that I really wanted to, so a lot of the entertainment and film reporters, and I got them, significant coverage, and it built up my skill set. And they actually ended up giving me the Volunteer of the Year award, which is a huge honor.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'd say that was a really worthwhile project, because it worked out really well for both parties. After that, I got a lot of inquiries from filmmakers asking me to, help them with their films, but they didn't have any, they didn't have any funds. And I had to say, well, I mean, at some point, I had to feed myself too. Yeah. And now I'm at the point where now I look for, if it's possible to do a pro bono project, I will, give in, or as long as I have other clients that are, meeting my bottom line. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Very cool. So for people that are trying to get into PR, do you have any tips for how to build kind of your media base, or like your connections in the industry in the city?
Well, like I said, my experience was as an intern, so that's the best way I still feel to get experience and to get a feel for whether PR is right for you or what kind of PR environment, because you could work just for one company and be part of the marketing or PR department, or you could work for an agency that has multiple different clients like I do, and then you get different experience for each client. So just get the experience, number one. If for some reason doing an internship isn't possible, then there's definitely ways to start building your media database. A lot of media outlets put their contact information online now, so that's mostly available for people to gather, and then just start building connections. Like, it's so easy now. When I started, we didn't have social media, or I think MySpace and Facebook were the big two. Facebook wasn't even really widely used.
Their 10th anniversary. I can't believe we've only been around for 10 years.
Yeah, wow. And Facebook I was using, just more to connect with friends and people I went to elementary and high school with and stuff like that. But now it's so easy to connect with people you don't know. So you can connect with media and with bloggers so easily through Twitter. Twitter is my kind of choice network for that purpose. There's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's just so many options now to connect with people. There's almost no excuse for, I don't know how to connect with people. It's like their information's online somehow. If not email, they're on some sort of network that you can connect with them to. Like nowadays, like people are uncomfortable with phone calls, I think. People are more uncomfortable. Like you texted me, right, to invite me here. So we're in a world now where it's it's more comfortable to communicate with people digitally rather than picking up the phone. Until we get video phones, I think, or the whole
FaceTime.
But until we're at the point where we're comfortable answering like video phone calls, I think.
For sure.
So online is the way to go.
Okay, so going back to clients, how do you sort of attract the clients that you want, or do outreach to them? Like, do you still do cold calling? Is it all through networking or getting connections and referrals, a combination of everything?
Well, it's always been for me word of mouth and referrals. That's how I've always gotten my clients. And now because of the rebrand and the new website, again, people can visit without even contacting me and self-qualify themselves. So if they resonate with what I stand for and the services that I provide, then I'll often get people contacting me. But referrals is number one. I would say networking events is number two, and it doesn't have to be a really niche networking event. It can be just meetup.com. But again, as long as there's a fit there, that tends to work out. And then I also get people, just finding me online or through social media, which is natural nowadays. And I still find myself doing the old-fashioned walking around the street and popping into businesses and saying hi and introducing myself. I actually just moved to the Main Street area, Main and 41st, and I'm now just popping in and saying hi to the people who run businesses in my area.
Cool. That's so smart.
Whether or not we do business together, I think it's just cool if we know each other because we're neighbors. and then I'll the odd email. I always start with email first because it's the least obtrusive in my opinion. And if I don't hear from people by email because I know people are busy, I'll pick up the phone and call. But most of my clients come to me through referrals.
Yeah, I think you definitely touched on something so essential. It's just like connectivity in this day and age is so key for almost any business. Like, you can never know too many people because at the end of the day, like those people will have other networks and other people will be able to refer you. So it's always great to go out of your way to do things like networking events or introduce yourself around the neighborhood, which I think a lot of people don't do. Like, I know for myself, like I barely know anybody that lives in my building, and I've lived here for like 4 or 5 months, but I just haven't gone out of my way to introduce myself yet. So key.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy world we live in, where it's so easy to connect with people online now.
Yeah,
but is that a really genuine connection if you're not actually connecting in person? So I think, we have to find that balance.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually connecting both online and offline.
Absolutely.
It's fun when you followed someone on Twitter for so long and you just know them by their little avatar, and then you see them in person. This just happened to me yesterday, actually. I was at an event and somebody came up to me and was like, "Are you Sandra?" And she looked familiar, but I didn't, I couldn't put a name to the face, but as soon as she introduced herself, we're totally connected on Twitter. And I've actually pitched her client stories, and she's done stories on my clients. We just happen to never have met before, so that's so cool. And and the faces of people when I call them out because we've connected on Twitter are classic, because I'm like, "You're so and so on Twitter." I'll mention their handle and they'll be like, "How do you know me?" And I'm like, "It's me." Like, come on. Like, I guess people don't realize, like, your little avatar can. I mean, it's amazing that we can actually tell who other people are by that little avatar.
Yeah, that's so funny. I have a lot of stories like that. Like, that's one of my favorite things about social media, is just being able to connect online and almost like build that like intimate or personal relationship with somebody, and then you meet them in person, and a lot of times it's like, "Oh, I feel like I've known you for forever, but I've never actually met you in person. This is so weird." And you can just like, I know like for networking tips, it's definitely an ease of access into networking events if you can connect to the people beforehand, and then that way you're much more comfortable in person, right, to talk to them. So, I love that. Good on social media. Okay, so I just have a couple more questions for you. For people that are looking to start out a career in public relations, what are your sort of top 3 tips? I know you talked about a few, like getting an internship and that sort of thing.
Seek out the experience that you want, number one. I know a lot of the local PR programs are offering practicums and internship placements as part of their program, which is great, because you're getting experience while right after you've studied, and that will probably give you better access to them and confidence to be able to apply for a job afterwards. An internship is number one.
So the final question I have for you is, looking back on your experience now, what would you tell the 21-year-old version of yourself? Sort of about business or life? Any advice that you have?
So when I was 21, I was doing an exchange program at U of T, so still technically studying at UBC, but just I wanted the experience of getting out of the city where I grew up in and having a new experience. And a lot of that was great. A lot of it was new to me in terms of how different people live in different cities, and I learned a lot about myself. I did a lot of writing and poetry and introspection, and had a lot of questions about who I wanted to be. And I wouldn't necessarily tell myself not to do this or that. I would probably just say it's all going to be okay. Because I remember spending a lot of time throughout my life, I mean, in high school and university, just wondering like what the right thing was to do. What path is the right path, and it's just like we've got one life, and there is just one path, right? So it doesn't matter like what direction you take, like just be okay with it and be okay with failing or not finding out you're interested in one area you thought you were going to be, and just like be cool with it, and also have fun. I think. I was lucky that year to discover that I had a love for film. I'd taken some extracurricular film courses just to kind of like, fill up my schedule, and I really loved it so much that I added that major when I went back to UBC, and I spent about a year just finishing off those credits. And so that was super fun to discover or rediscover, I guess, about myself, because I think I always loved movies. And that was the fun part of my work, like doing film PR, and even the film festival that I run now is like that's a lot of really fun. So yeah, so just keep following what resonates with your heart and what you love, and don't stress out too much about what things are gonna turn out to be, because it's all gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I gotta tell myself that.
I definitely try and think about that now, just like always being forward thinking but grateful for what's happening in the present is so key. Because you can oftentimes miss out on really great experiences because you're too focused on what you're trying to do in the future. So it's definitely a hugest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still always learning to stay present. As a writer, I've got an imagination, and so I like to forward think all the time. I have to sometimes really stop myself and just be in that moment of joy of being in the present moment. So yeah, I mean, I'm still learning too, for sure.
Ongoing learning process all the time, especially for entrepreneurs, in particular.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess that's all the time we have today. So thank you so much for coming for our Lunch and Learn. And I guess, why don't you give us a rundown of all of your social media channels and websites so people can check you out?
Sure. ConsciousPR.com is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Conscious PR on Facebook, Sandra Garcia _PR on Twitter, and I'm on other networks as well, but less frequently. So
cool. Thank you so much. And stay tuned. If you guys have any questions for myself or Sandra, definitely start a conversation below the video. And why don't you give us your tips for how you have rebranded something in your life, and let's start a conversation.